I was 26 years old when I tried to buy my first car. Nothing fancy. A used Honda Civic. Something reliable to get me to work. I had saved for 2 years, had a steady job, and a decent credit score. Or so I thought. The finance manager looked at his computer screen, then looked at me, then looked at the screen again. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we can't approve you." "What? Why not?" "I have good credit." He turned the screen toward me. "According to this, you owe $417,000 across 12 different accounts. Credit cards, personal loans, a car loan for a Mercedes, 2 mortgages." I stared at that screen. I had never owned a credit card. I had never taken out a loan. I didn't even know you could have 2 mortgages. "There must be a mistake," I whispered. But there wasn't a mistake. Someone had been using my identity for almost a decade. Someone had been taking out loans, maxing out credit cards, and living a lifestyle I couldn't afford, all under my name. And that someone was my mother. That was 8 years ago. Today, I'm sitting in a home I own, legally, in my own name, with my own credit. My credit score is 780. I have 0 debt. I run a successful financial literacy nonprofit that helps victims of identity theft rebuild their lives. My mother? She's serving 5 years in federal prison for fraud. But here's the part that still keeps me up at night. When I confronted her, when I showed her the evidence, the documents, the ruined credit, she didn't apologize. She didn't cry. She didn't beg for forgiveness. She laughed. "I raised you for 18 years, she said. "Fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. You owe me a lot more than $400,000. Consider it repayment." Before I tell you how I went from being buried under a mountain of debt I didn't create to putting my own mother in prison, drop a comment below. Have you ever been betrayed by the person who was supposed to protect you the most? This story is for you. My name is Janelle. I'm 34 years old. I'm the founder of Identity Restored, a nonprofit organization that helps victims of identity theft, especially those betrayed by family members, rebuild their financial lives. We've helped over 3,000 people in the past 5 years. We offer free credit counseling, legal resources, and emotional support groups. Because let me tell you, when your own mother steals your identity, you need more than a lawyer. You need therapy. I have a husband named Marcus who stood by me through the worst years of my life. I have a 3-year-old daughter named Hope. Yes, I named her Hope because that's what I almost lost and had to fight to find again. I own my home. I have retirement savings. I have an emergency fund. All things I couldn't even dream about 8 years ago when I was staring at a debt I didn't create, wondering how my own mother could do this to me. The journey from that car dealership to this living room was the hardest thing I've ever done. But I'm here, and my mother is exactly where she belongs. I need you to understand something. $400,000 in debt is not just a number, it's a life sentence. When I discovered what my mother had done, I couldn't rent an apartment. Landlords ran credit checks and laughed me out of their offices. I couldn't get a real job. Background checks showed financial irresponsibility. Employers assumed I was reckless with money. I couldn't open a bank account. Banks flagged my social security number as high risk. I couldn't do anything. My entire future was locked behind a wall of debt I never agreed to, never knew about, never benefited from. And the worst part? The legal system is not designed to help people like me. When your identity thief is a stranger, it's fraud. When your identity thief is your mother, it's a family matter. Police didn't want to get involved. Lawyers told me to work it out with my mom. Credit agencies said I needed to prove the accounts weren't mine. But how do you prove a negative? I was 26 years old, with perfect work history, no criminal record, and dreams of a normal life. And my own mother had stolen all of it. People always ask me the same question. How could you send your own mother to prison? And I always answer the same way. How could she do this to her own daughter? I didn't want to press charges. I didn't dream of seeing my mother in handcuffs. I spent months, years trying to find another way. I begged her to come clean. I offered to help her get treatment. I tried everything, but she didn't see what she did as wrong. She saw it as payment. She saw me as an ATM she had the right to drain because she gave birth to me. And as long as she believed that, she would never stop. She would keep taking, keep lying, keep destroying my life and calling it love. So I made a choice, the hardest choice of my life. I chose me. I chose my future. I chose to break the cycle, even if it meant breaking my family. Let me take you back to the beginning. Let me show you how I grew up, how I trusted her, and how I discovered the truth that changed everything. I grew up in a small house in Baltimore. My father, David, was a construction worker. My mother, Denise, worked part-time at a hair salon. We weren't rich, but we were okay. My earliest memories are happy ones. Daddy teaching me to ride a bike, Mama braiding my hair on Sunday mornings, family dinners where we actually talked and laughed. But even then, there were signs. Things I didn't understand as a child but make perfect sense now. Mama was always obsessed with money, not saving it, spending it. She wanted nice things, designer bags, expensive shoes, jewelry that didn't match our income. We deserve nice things, she would say when Daddy questioned a purchase. I work hard, why shouldn't I have what other women have? Daddy would go quiet. He was a peaceful man. He didn't like conflict, so he let her spend, and he worked overtime to cover the bills. Looking back, I realize he was the only thing keeping our family stable. When he died, everything fell apart. Daddy died when I was 12, construction accident. A beam fell. They said he didn't suffer, but I don't know if that's true or just what people say. The funeral was packed. Everyone loved David. He was the kind of man who helped neighbors fix their roofs, who coached Little League even though he had no sons, who never raised his voice even when he had every right to. I remember watching my mother at the funeral. She cried, of course she cried, but there was something else in her eyes. Something I couldn't name at 12, but recognize now. Relief. With Daddy gone, there was no one to question her spending, no one to check the bank statements, no one to say, we can't afford that. She got his life insurance, $50,000. It should have lasted years. It was gone in 8 months, and that's when things started to get strange. After the life insurance ran out, I expected us to struggle. I was prepared to get a part-time job, to skip field trips, to wear hand-me-downs. But we didn't struggle. In fact, we lived better than ever. Mama got a new car, a Lexus. We moved to a nicer apartment. She bought new furniture, new clothes, new everything. Business is good at the salon, she'd say when I asked. I'm doing more clients now. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my mother. What I didn't know was that around that time, when I was 13, my mother applied for her first credit card in my name. She used my social security number, forged my signature, and started building a secret empire of debt under my identity. I was in 8th grade, worrying about algebra and boys. I had no idea that somewhere, a credit card bill with my name was piling up interest I would one day have to pay. You might be wondering how she even had my social security number. Here's the thing. Parents have their children's information. It's not suspicious for a mother to know her daughter's social. She had been saving all my documents since birth. Social security card, birth certificate, school records. I thought she was being organized. She was building a toolkit for fraud. Years later, when I reviewed the evidence, I saw the timeline. She started small, a credit card with a $500 limit when I was 13. She paid it off, built my credit. Then another card, a $1,000 limit, paid off. Credit score rising. By the time I was 16, I had an excellent credit history and 3 active accounts. I didn't know any of them existed. By the time I was 18, she felt confident enough to go bigger. A car loan. Then another credit card with a $10,000 limit. Then a personal loan. She was patient. She was strategic. She was building a house of cards that would eventually collapse. But not on her. On me. I left for college at 18. Full of hope. I had worked hard in high school, earned a partial scholarship, and was ready to build my own life. Mama was supportive, or so it seemed. She helped me pack. She drove me to the dorm. She cried when she said goodbye. "You're going to do great things, baby," she said. "I'm so proud of you." I believed her. I loved her. I had no idea that while she was hugging me goodbye, She was also maxing out a credit card in my name to remodel her kitchen. College was hard, but wonderful. I studied business. I worked part-time jobs. I was careful with money because I thought I had none. Meanwhile, my mother's spending escalated. With me gone, there was no one watching, no one asking questions. She took out a mortgage on a house. She leased a Mercedes. She went on vacations to places I'd never been, all under my name, all building toward a debt that would eventually find me. I graduated at 22 with honors, thinking my future was bright. I had no idea the storm that was coming. 4 years after graduation, I walked into that car dealership thinking it was a normal day. I had a good job as an accountant. Ironic, I know. I had saved $10,000 for a down payment. I had been responsible my whole life. The salesman was friendly. We picked out the car, we went to the finance office, and that's when my world collapsed. $417,000. I made the finance manager print it out. I stared at the paper like it was written in a foreign language. Credit cards I'd never applied for. A car loan for a Mercedes I'd never driven. Personal loans I'd never signed. 2 mortgages on properties I'd never seen. There has to be a mistake, I kept saying. I've never had a credit card in my life. But there was my name, my social security number, my date of birth. The finance manager looked at me with pity. Ma'am, you might want to check if someone in your family has access to your information. Someone in my family. I drove home in a daze. I didn't buy the car. I couldn't do anything. I pulled the credit report online and started going through it line by line. That's when I noticed the addresses. One of the credit cards was registered to my childhood home, where my mother still lived. The mortgages were for properties in Baltimore, near where she worked. The Mercedes loan was for a car I had seen parked in her driveway. No, it couldn't be. I called the credit card company and asked for records. They faxed me application forms. And there it was, my mother's handwriting. Her phone number as the contact, her email address for statements. She hadn't even tried to hide it. She knew I would never check. I sat on my apartment floor for 3 hours, holding those papers, unable to move, unable to breathe. My mother, the woman who raised me, the woman who braided my hair and made me soup when I was sick and told me she loved me every single day. She had stolen my identity. She had stolen my future, and she had been doing it for over a decade. I drove to her house the next day. I didn't call ahead. I didn't want to give her time to prepare lies. She opened the door with a smile. "Baby, what a surprise. Come in, come in." The house looked beautiful. New floors, new appliances, a 70-inch TV on the wall, all paid for with money borrowed under my name. I stood in the middle of her living room and held up the papers. "What is this, Mama?" Her smile flickered, just for a second. Then it was back. "What is what, baby?" "Don't." My voice was shaking. "Don't lie to me. I know everything. The credit cards, the loans, the mortgages, all in my name. $400,000 of debt that I didn't create." She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She sighed, like I was being dramatic, like I was overreacting. "Baby, calm down. Let me explain." "Explain? Explain how you stole my identity? Explain how you've been destroying my credit for over a decade? Explain how I can't buy a car, can't rent an apartment, can't do anything because of what you did? I raised you for 18 years, she snapped. Fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. Do you know how much that costs? You owe me." I felt the ground shift beneath me. "I owe you?" "Yes. You owe me. For everything I sacrificed, for everything I gave up. A few credit cards is nothing compared to what you cost me." I stared at this woman, this stranger wearing my mother's face, and I felt something break inside me, something that would never fully heal. I thought surely the rest of my family would be horrified. Surely they would support me. Surely someone would acknowledge that what my mother did was wrong. I was wrong. My younger sister Trina, who still lived with Mama, took her side immediately. "She did what she had to do," Trina said. "You don't know how hard it was for her after Daddy died. You left for college and didn't look back. She was struggling. So she stole my identity?" It's not stealing if it's family. She was going to pay it back. $400,000. How was she going to pay that back? Trina had no answer. Because there was no answer. Mama was never going to pay it back. She was just going to keep taking until there was nothing left. I called aunts and uncles. They all said the same thing. Don't air family business in public. Work it out privately. She's your mother. You only get one. Think about what this will do to her reputation. Her reputation. My life was destroyed, and they were worried about her reputation. The only person who believed me was Grandma Ruth, my father's mother. She had never liked Denise. She always said there was something off about her. Baby girl, she said, when I told her everything. You do what you need to do. Don't let anyone tell you that blood means letting someone destroy you. Over the next few months, the full extent of the damage became clear. My employer found out about my credit situation. They didn't fire me, but they moved me to a position with less responsibility, less trust, less pay. My landlord found out when I tried to renew my lease. She said she couldn't rent to someone with that much debt. I had 30 days to move. I couldn't get a new apartment. No one would approve me. I moved in with a friend from college, sleeping on her couch, pretending my life wasn't falling apart. I lost 15 pounds from stress. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't think about anything except the mountain of debt that wasn't mine, but had my name on it. And every time I closed my eyes, I heard my mother's voice, "You owe me." I went to the police. I thought, surely, this is fraud. This is a crime. They'll arrest her, and this nightmare will end. The officer listened to my story, looked at the evidence, and sighed. Ma'am, this is really more of a civil matter. Family disputes are handled differently. This isn't a dispute. She stole my identity. She committed fraud. She's your mother. She had legal access to your information when you were a minor. It's complicated. Complicated. That word haunted me for months. I hired a lawyer, one I couldn't afford, on a payment plan I could barely manage. He told me the truth. You have two options. You can file a police report and try to get the accounts removed as fraudulent. But you'll need to be prepared to testify against your mother. She could face federal charges. Are you ready for that? I didn't know if I was ready for that. Or, he continued, you can try to negotiate with the creditors. Explain the situation. Some might forgive the debt. Most won't. Neither option was good. Neither option was fair. But fair had left the building when my mother signed her first loan in my name. I spent weeks wrestling with the decision. If I pressed charges, my mother would go to prison. My family would hate me. I would be the daughter who destroyed her own mother. If I didn't press charges, I would be buried under debt forever. I would never own a home, never build wealth, never have the future I deserved. My mother had put me in an impossible position. She had forced me to choose between my conscience and my survival. One night, I called Grandma Ruth, sobbing. Grandma, I don't know what to do. I don't want to send her to prison, but I can't live like this. Grandma Ruth was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something I'll never forget. Baby, your mother made her choice when she signed those papers. She chose to steal from you. She chose to lie to you. She chose to put her lifestyle over your future. Now you have a choice. You can let her choices define your life, or you can make your own. But she's my mother. She stopped being your mother when she started seeing you as a bank account. A real mother protects her child. She used you. There's a difference. The next morning, I went to the police station and filed a formal report. I brought every document I had, every credit card application with her handwriting, every loan that went to her address, every piece of evidence showing she was the one who benefited. The detective assigned to my case was a woman named Detective Williams. She had seen cases like this before. Family identity theft is more common than people think, she said. Parents do it to children. Siblings do it to each other. It's devastating because the victim has to choose between justice and family. Is there any way to get the debt removed without pressing charges? Honestly, no. The creditors won't remove $400,000 without a criminal finding of fraud. You need this investigation. I signed the statement. I provided the evidence. And I watched as Detective Williams opened a case against my own mother. When I left that police station, I felt two things at once. Relief that I was finally doing something, and grief for the mother I thought I had, but never really did. The investigation took 8 months. Detective Williams was thorough. She subpoenaed bank records, phone records, email accounts. She traced every dollar my mother had borrowed under my name and found where it went. The Mercedes? Bought 2 years ago. Still sitting in my mother's driveway. The mortgages? 2 properties she had been renting out for income. Income she never reported to the IRS. The credit cards? Designer shopping sprees, spa treatments, vacations to places like Cancun and Miami. My mother had been living a double life. To the world, she was a hardworking single mother who had raised 2 daughters on her own. In reality, she was a fraud who had been financing her lifestyle with her own child's future. Detective Williams also discovered something I hadn't known. I wasn't her only victim. My sister Trina, the same sister who defended our mother, who said she was doing what she had to do, was also a victim. My mother had opened accounts in Trina's name too. Not as many and not as much, but over $60,000 in debt was sitting under Trina's social security number. Trina didn't know. She had never checked her credit. She was 24 years old and had no idea her future was already mortgaged. Detective Williams told me this during one of our meetings. "Do you want us to notify your sister?" I thought about it. Trina had taken my mother's side. She had called me a traitor for going to the police. She had said I was destroying the family. "Yes," I said. "She deserves to know." 2 days later, Trina called me, hysterical. "Is it true? Is it true what the detective said? Mama opened cards in my name too?" "Yes, Trina. It's true." Silence, then sobbing, then a whispered, "I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. I thought you were being dramatic. I'm so sorry." My mother had turned my sister against me by convincing her I was the villain. Now the truth was out, and my sister had to face the same impossible choice I had faced. 8 months after I filed my report, they arrested my mother. I wasn't there for it. I didn't want to be. But Detective Williams called me afterward and told me what happened. They came to her house in the morning. She was in her robe, drinking coffee, watching the news. They showed her the warrant. They read her rights. They put her in handcuffs. According to Detective Williams, my mother was calm, almost eerily calm. She asked if she could change clothes first, the detective told me. Then she asked if we could do this quietly so the neighbors wouldn't see. She was more worried about appearances than about the charges. That was my mother. Always worried about what other people thought, never worried about what she was actually doing. She was charged with 15 counts of identity theft, 12 counts of credit card fraud, and 2 counts of mortgage fraud. Federal charges, serious time, and still, part of me hoped she would apologize. Part of me hoped that now, facing real consequences, she would finally admit what she did was wrong. I should have known better. The trial was 6 months later. I had to testify. Walking into that courtroom, seeing my mother at the defendant's table was surreal. She looked smaller somehow, older. But when our eyes met, she didn't look guilty. She looked angry at me, for exposing her, for not letting her get away with it. On the stand, I told my story. The car dealership, the discovery, the $400,000, the confrontation where she said I owed her. The defense attorney tried to paint me as an ungrateful daughter. He asked about my childhood, implied my mother had sacrificed everything for me, suggested that maybe I had known about the accounts and was now trying to escape responsibility. I stayed calm. I told the truth. And I showed the evidence. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Then they came back with a verdict. Guilty. On all counts. My mother didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked at me with cold, empty eyes and mouthed 2 words. "You're dead." The judge sentenced her to 7 years. With good behavior, she could be out in 5. 5 years for stealing my identity, for taking $400,000, for trying to destroy my future. It felt like too little. It also felt like too much. It felt like justice and tragedy wrapped into one impossible moment. With my mother's conviction, I could finally start rebuilding. The criminal finding allowed me to dispute every fraudulent account. One by one, they were removed from my credit report. The $400,000 mountain began to shrink. It wasn't instant. It took 2 years of paperwork, phone calls, and follow-ups. But eventually, every account she opened was closed. Every debt she created was erased. When I finally received a credit report showing 0 fraudulent accounts, I cried for an hour. It wasn't just a number, it was my future coming back to me. Possibilities opening up. The weight of chains I never agreed to wear finally being lifted. I could rent an apartment again. I could apply for jobs without shame. I could think about buying a house, building savings, having a normal life. My mother had stolen a decade of my financial life, but she hadn't stolen my future. I had fought for it, and I had won. I met Marcus about a year after the trial. We met at a coffee shop. Classic. He was working on his laptop, I was reading a book, and we kept catching each other's eyes. Finally, he walked over. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to regret it forever if I don't ask for your number." I laughed. That's bold. I'd rather be bold than full of regret. We exchanged numbers. We went on a first date, then a second, then a third, and somewhere along the way, I fell in love. But I was terrified to tell him my story. Who wants to date a woman whose own mother committed fraud against her? Who wants to be with someone carrying that kind of family baggage? When I finally told him, 3 months into our relationship, he listened quietly, then he took my hands and said, "You are not your mother. You are not what she did. You are a survivor who fought for yourself when no one else would. That's not baggage. That's strength." I knew then I was going to marry him. During my rebuilding years, I discovered something heartbreaking. I wasn't alone. Thousands of people, mostly young adults, are victims of identity theft by their own parents every year. It's called familiar fraud, and it's one of the most underreported crimes in America. Why? Because victims feel ashamed, because they love their abusers, because society tells them that family loyalty trumps everything, even their own well-being. I started sharing my story online, first in support groups, then on social media. The response was overwhelming. This happened to me too. My mother did the same thing. I thought I was the only one. Thousands of messages from people who had been silently carrying the same burden I had carried. That's when I knew what I had to do. I enrolled in nonprofit management courses. I studied credit law. I connected with lawyers who specialized in identity theft. And I founded Identity Restored, a nonprofit dedicated to helping victims of familiar fraud rebuild their lives. We started small, just me and a volunteer hotline. But word spread. Donations came in. Partnerships formed. Today, Identity Restored has helped over 3,000 people navigate the legal, financial, and emotional aftermath of being betrayed by their own family. Every time I help someone get a fraudulent account removed, I think about that day in the car dealership. I think about how alone I felt, and I'm grateful I can make sure others don't have to feel that way. My sister Trina and I didn't speak for 2 years after the trial. She was angry, not at me, but at herself. She had defended our mother. She had called me a traitor. She had been so deep in denial that she couldn't see the truth until it hit her personally. When she discovered she was also a victim, everything she believed collapsed, and she didn't know how to face me. Eventually, she reached out. A text message, simple. "I'm sorry. Can we talk?" We met at Grandma Ruth's house, neutral ground. We sat on the porch where we used to play as kids, and we talked for hours. Trina told me she had been in therapy. She was working through the same feelings of betrayal and confusion I had struggled with. She was trying to understand how she had missed so many signs. "I think I knew," she admitted. Deep down, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to believe it. It was easier to believe you were lying than to accept that Mama was a thief. I understood. I had wanted to believe in my mother too. I had made excuses for years before the evidence became undeniable. "I forgive you," I told her. We were both her victims. She manipulated both of us. Trina started crying. I held her, and we began the slow process of rebuilding our relationship, not as our mother's daughters, but as sisters who had survived something terrible together. My mother writes me letters from prison. At first, I didn't open them. I let them pile up on my desk, unopened, unread. I wasn't ready to hear whatever she had to say. Eventually, curiosity won. I opened one. It wasn't an apology. It was a list of complaints. The food was bad. Her cellmate was annoying. The guards didn't respect her. She was innocent, and everyone was treating her unfairly. Not a word about what she did. Not a word about me. Just her own suffering, as if she were the victim in this story. I threw the letter away and didn't open another one for a year. When I finally opened another, it was more of the same. She was the victim. The system had failed her. Her ungrateful daughter had abandoned her. Ungrateful, after everything she stole from me, she still believed I owed her. I stopped opening the letters. I don't know if she still sends them. I don't care. Some people never change. Some people are incapable of seeing beyond their own needs. My mother is one of those people. People ask me if I've forgiven my mother. It's a complicated question. Have I let go of the anger? Mostly. I can't carry that weight forever. It would only hurt me. Have I moved on with my life? Absolutely. I have a husband, a daughter, a career that makes a difference. I am not defined by what she did. But have I forgiven her? Have I said, what you did is okay? No. Because it's not okay. What she did was a crime. What she did damaged me for years. What she did showed me that she saw me as a resource to be exploited, not a person to be loved. Forgiveness, in my understanding, is not about excusing behavior. It's about releasing the hold that behavior has on you. So I've released her. I've let go of the fantasy that she would ever be the mother I needed. I've accepted that she is broken in ways that have nothing to do with me, but I won't pretend what she did was forgivable. I won't model for my daughter that it's okay to let people abuse you just because they're family. Some things are unforgivable, and that's okay. You can heal without forgiving. You can move on without excusing. My daughter Hope is 3 years old. She has her father's eyes and my stubbornness. Sometimes I look at her and wonder how my mother could have done what she did. How do you look at your child, this person you created, this person who trusts you completely, and see a victim to exploit? I will never understand it, and I hope I never do. What I know is this: the cycle ends with me. Hope will never wonder if her mother is stealing from her. She will never have to check her credit report for fraud. She will never have to choose between her family and her future. I'm teaching her about money, age appropriately, of course. I'm teaching her about boundaries. I'm teaching her that love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself for people who don't have your best interests at heart. When she's old enough, I'll tell her about her grandmother. Not to poison her against family, but to teach her that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from. It's a hard lesson, but better she learn it from me than discover it the way I did. If you're watching this and your own family has betrayed you, financially or otherwise, I want to speak directly to you. You are not alone. You are not ungrateful for wanting to protect yourself. You are not a bad person for setting boundaries with people who hurt you. Family is supposed to mean safety, trust, and unconditional love. When family becomes a source of harm, you have every right to protect yourself, even if that means legal action, even if that means distance, even if that means walking away entirely. Your loyalty should not be used as a weapon against you. Your love should not be exploited as a vulnerability. You deserve people who protect you, not people who prey on you. If you suspect you're a victim of identity theft by a family member or anyone else, here's what I wish someone had told me. First, check your credit report immediately. You can get free reports from all 3 bureaus once a year. Look for accounts you don't recognize. Second, document everything. If you find fraud, print records, take screenshots, save emails. Evidence is everything. Third, file a police report. Even if they tell you it's a family matter, file anyway. You need that report to dispute accounts. Fourth, contact the creditors. Explain the situation. Ask for their fraud departments. Be persistent. Fifth, consider legal action. I know it's hard when it's family, but some betrayals are so severe that justice is the only path forward. And sixth, get therapy. This kind of betrayal messes with your head. You need professional help to process it. There's no shame in that. You can find resources at identityrestored.org. We're here to help. My mother taught me a lot, just not what she intended. She taught me that blood doesn't equal loyalty, that giving birth doesn't automatically make someone a good parent, that the people who should love you most can sometimes hurt you worst. But she also taught me, unintentionally, how strong I am. I survived the discovery of $400,000 in debt I didn't create. I survived being abandoned by most of my family. I survived putting my own mother in prison, and I didn't just survive, I thrived. I built a career helping others. I found a husband who loves me for exactly who I am. I became a mother determined to break every toxic cycle I inherited. My mother thought she was taking from me. In a way, she was giving me something, the knowledge that I could withstand anything and come out stronger. That's not thanks to her. That's in spite of her. But I'll take the lesson anyway. My mother stole my identity. She stole hundreds of thousands of dollars. She stole years of my financial future. But she didn't steal who I am. She didn't steal my integrity, my work ethic, my capacity for love, my determination to build something good in a world that had been cruel to me. I am not what she did. I am what I did in response, and what I did was fight for myself, for my future, for every victim who feels alone in their struggle. If you're in the middle of your fight right now, if you're staring at a debt you didn't create, or a betrayal you didn't deserve, or a family that failed you, I want you to know something. This is not the end. This is the beginning. The people who hurt you don't get to write your story. You do. Pick up the pen. Write something beautiful.